Hello. Proceeding with our self-knowledge course, we are going to talk about the four states of the consciousness. Why do we have four states of consciousness? It's just because mostly, as it was exhaustively explored, we know that mankind and humanity is on a profound sleep.
Acacia, the lowest of the four states of consciousness. Acacia is ignorance, human cruelty, barbarism, exceedingly profound sleep, a brutal and instinctive world, an infrahuman state.
The first state of consciousness is what we call the acacia. The acacia, it comes from a Greek word which means ignorance, the cruelty, the instinctive word. It's brutal. It's the complete sleep of the consciousness. That is when the person is acting instinctively as a brutal state of the consciousness. I mean, it's actually no conscious at all. Complete ignorance is unfortunately what we see nowadays. But that is mostly because a few have control of the masses. And as long as the masses does not wake up, unfortunately we will remain in a world like that. In this complete ignorance leads to the atrocities that we see nowadays. We know that not just brutal, but just sleeping, like watching TV and etc. Usually we see people spend hours and hours in front of a TV set, wasting time, watching for the brutality of the TV programs, which represent the warfares, the barbarian conquest. And unfortunately, this is what we see most of the time, watching the news. And that's what the TV represents. That's what the TV wants to perpetuate, this deep sleep of the consciousness. Since the invention of the TV, if that TV set was used for the awakening of the consciousness of the mankind, the programs would be related to nature, because we can even learn from nature. We all could awake our consciousness by just observing nature, by observing that even the most instinctive animals, they do not kill unless they wanted to satiate their hunger. But the mankind, the human being, as Mr. Samael Aun frequently says, the humanoid, mistakenly called man, is the only animal that kills for fun. And that is an unfortunate. That is what we call the profound sleep of the consciousness. And that is the acacia.
Pistis. Pistis is belief, acceptance of theories, lacks the direct experience. For many centuries, faith and belief have been confused, and now it takes a great effort and exertion to make people understand that faith is true knowledge and not futile belief.
The second state of the consciousness is called pistis. So again, these are Greek words referring to these terms. Pistis is a state of consciousness that is referring to the beliefs, the preconcepts, fanatism. This is the level of consciousness of the common humans. Most of the humanity lives on pistis because we are constantly repeating concepts from the old civilizations. we are constantly on the sectarisms that were passed along generations and generations without questioning them. The history is told by the winners. And unfortunately, we do not question. We just take that as a belief. And by not questioning, we end up representing and perpetuating beliefs and sectarisms and preconcepts. Unfortunately, humanity is representing concepts that are no longer valid. Some of them are evident, but most of them, unfortunately, is just because the humanity is on a profound sleep and never questions why they are repeating that. There is an old story. Let me tell you about that old story because this is very pertinent. That was this daughter that asked her mother, "Well, mother, why do you cut the head of the fish and the tail of the fish to cook?" Her mother just said, "Well, because your grandmother used to do it like that." And luckily, the grandmother was still alive. So the little girl went to the grandmother and asked, "Grandma, why did you cut the head and the tail of the fish to cook?" And then the grandmother said, "Well, because your great-grandmother used to do it like that." But then the great-grandmother was not around to be asked. And in reality, the great-grandmother used to do it like that because she had a pretty small pan, a frying pan, small. So the fish would not fit inside that frying pan. So that's why she cut the tail and the head to cook it. But nowadays, we have many sizes of frying pans, different sizes. So it's no longer necessary to cut the head and the tail of the fish to cook it. So, as you can see from these examples, many things are just perpetuated just because it was done like that in the past. So we perpetuate the same thing to the future without even questioning. So the idea of awakening the consciousness is, in addition to question yourself, it is important to remember yourself. Why are you doing or repeating the same things that our predecessors used to do? Of course, there was a reason why they did it in the past. And even if there was not a reason, we can assume that they did not have the awakened consciousness. So, we cannot just proceed repeating the same things and the same beliefs that we heard in the past. So most of the mankind and the humanity is oscillating between akasia and pistis. Akasia is kind of inconscience completely. Pistis is subconsciousness. These two inferior states of the consciousness is what most of the mankind is oscillating on.
Dianoia. Dianoia is a state of raising and changing our level of consciousness with self-remembering, an awareness of our internal state and the outer event in which we found ourselves.
Now, we have a third state of the consciousness, which is we start moving to a superior level, which is the dianoia. Dianoia, it is a state of the consciousness that it is conscience, awakened consciousness, the state of alertness. It is the revision of beliefs. It is questioning why, analysis, which is to synthesize the concepts, self-consciousness. It is important that we move from pistis to dianoia. It is important that we abandon ekasia, which is the complete sleep of the consciousness. Dianoia, when we are in dianoia, we are just revising the beliefs. We are questioning. We have to question the beliefs. This is something that we can do by remembering ourselves, by remembering the self, by remembering who we are constantly. And there is a key to that we're going to talk about that. And the fourth state of consciousness is nous.
Nous. Here we have our center of gravity in the being by remembering ourselves without distraction and disorganization of attention. Nous is total awareness, right here, right now.
Nous is the fourth state of consciousness. That is perfect conscience, awakened consciousness. It is superconscious, objective consciousness, perfect illumination. Well, of course, this is the state that we achieve when we meditate, when we achieve the samadhi. That is during meditation. And then you're going to ask, well, we cannot live in nous all the time. Yes, I agree with you. We cannot be in nous 100% of the time. But we can oscillate. We can be there and come back from instant to instant, as opposed to ekasia and pistis. Because as we know, in ekasia, we are completely sleeping, being brutal. We don't want to be brutal, do we? And as in pistis, we are just repeating the beliefs. We don't want to be repeating beliefs. We want to question, to synthesize our thoughts. Why are we repeating this or that? We have to remember the soul key. Remember the soul key? So we have to remember ourselves. And in order to remember ourselves, again, we have to be constantly from instant to instant. We have to constantly ask ourselves, subject, who am I? Object, what am I doing? And the location, where am I at? So, if we are just repeating something that we were told without questioning, the question, what am I doing, leads us to the awakening of the consciousness at that very moment. Why am I repeating this without questioning it? Whether these concepts are valid or not. Because we know that many concepts are no longer valid. We have, as Gnostic students, to oscillate between dianoia and nous. Ekasia and pistis are inferior states of the consciousness. Dianoia and nous are superior. Like I was saying, we are not going to be in nous 100% of the time, but we can get there at every moment, from moment to moment, from instant to instant. And we have to take advantage of that. Because if I am expressing my inner self right here and right now, I am in nous. Now, if I only believe and do not question, I am in pistis. Well, I'm not even going to repeat the ekasia state of consciousness because this is brutal. And I'm sure we don't want to, be in that state of consciousness.
If we want to arrive at the awakening of consciousness, at self-consciousness, we have to work with the consciousness here and now. It is precisely here in this physical world where we should work to awaken consciousness. Whoever awakens here awakens everywhere, in all dimensions of the universe.
So I hope to see you next time for our next lesson. I wish you a good day and enjoy your time. Thank you.